Welcome back. In our last 4 topics in this course, we are going to talk about Microsoft Access. Access is a database that's used for storing information. And so first this week, we're going to talk about what a database is and what database tables are. Then we'll talk about how you actually create those, create the attributes and the fields within them. And then lastly, we'll add some information into the database. Okay, so to get started, I'm just going to talk about what databases are and what tables are and so on for a few minutes. So first of all, a database is a collection of information that's stored on a computer system. So it allows us to store information first of all and then analyze it. We're going to spend this week and next week looking at the store information part. So we'll be setting up our tables and putting information into them. And the last 2 weeks then we're going to look at the analysing it part. So there we'll be doing queries, which you can kind of think of like asking a question of the database and getting some information back as a result. So the one we are going to create is a medical centre database. So think about what kind of information a medical centre might store. Straight away you might think about patients' information. So we might need to store patients' name, address, telephone number and all their contact details, but also information about their health statistics and so on. We also might want to store information about the appointments that we have coming up and maybe which doctors those appointments are with and maybe any prescriptions that are given to patients as well. So that's the example that we're going to work with. In practice, a medical centre might actually also store loads of other information as well on maybe like staff payroll and all sorts of things, but we're going to keep ours to just those 4 different categories. When you are storing information in a database, it's stored in tables. So each table kind of represents a category of information. So in our case, we're going to have one table where we store all the information about patients, another one where we store all the information about doctors, another for appointments, another for prescriptions, and so on. Okay, and within a table then we also have individual fields. So the fields are the individual pieces of information that we're going to store. In patient, that might be patient name, patient address, telephone number, date of birth, allergies, and anything else that we want to store about the patient. Each individual piece of information will have its own field within that table. So this is how they all kind of fit together. We have our overall medical centre, our tables within that, and then our fields within each table. And I've just shown a few for patient there, but obviously doctor will have its own fields and appointment will have its own fields as well, and so on. Okay, last couple of things then that we need to do in Access when we're creating these fields is to specify what type of information we're going to store in each one. So for example, the patient's name is text, so we'll choose text as the type for that field. The date of birth is going to be a date, BMI will be a number, and so on. So we'll have a look when we're creating our tables at how you specify the data types for each one as well. And lastly, we also need to specify what's called a primary key for each table. A primary key is a unique identifier for that entry in the database. So for a patient, in other words, we need something to uniquely identify the person. In the case that, let's say, for example, their name, if they have a common enough name, there might be more than one person with that name in the database. So we need something else that we can know that we're getting the information on the right patient. For that, we could use something like PPS number because that's some unique number that every person has. But Access also has this built-in auto number field that we can make use of, and it's a little bit easier to work with. You'll see when we create a new table in a second that there's already an auto number field in there. That assigns a unique number to each entry. So when we create our first patient, it'll number that patient number 1, the next one will be patient number 2, and so on. So we can always search for the patient based on their ID number. Okay, So that's what we're going to do today. Create the database first of all, create the patient table, including all the information within that and the primary key, and then we'll add a couple of patients as well. Okay, for this we're going to start a blank new database. So you can just double click on the access icon on your desktop, or you can go down to the magnifying glass icon down at the bottom left of your screen and type access in there, and you should see it come up there as well. So I'm going to click to open that. Once you've opened access, you can click on a blank database to create one. So just click it once and you'll see this pop up where you can specify the name for your database and where you're going to save it. So I am going to name mine Medical Center. So we can delete what's already there and type Medical Center. The file extension you can leave as it is, that's .accdb, short for Access Database. Also at this stage you can choose where you want to save it. So just click on the folder icon next to the file name, and then you can choose your OneDrive folder. So go to this PC and find your MyWit OneDrive within there. Okay, and you should then see that it's showing the location it's going to create it in as your OneDrive folder. Okay, and then you can click create. Okay, so that creates this first database with a blank table within it called table 1. So the view we are seeing here is called datasheet view. And this is the view where we enter information. So when we want to enter all the stuff about our patients, we'll do it in this view. There is another view where we can create the different fields within the table. So that's the one we're going to do now. You'll see on the very start of the menu there, you've got this view button. And if you click that, there's two different views in here, datasheet view and design view. So we are going to switch over now to design view. So click on that option and it will ask you to save your table. So give it a name of patient and then click OK. And then it should switch over to the design view. So the design view looks like this. Okay, so instead of entering the information about the patients, we can actually create the fields like patient name, date of birth, and all that kind of stuff in here. I'm just going to pull up the exercise here and you can do the same yourselves. So underneath the video, if you go to tables, exercise instructions, and you can maybe just put that on half the screen and your access database on the other half of the screen. Because the instructions here show you what you should be entering in the patient table. Okay, so you can see here, these are the things that I want to store about the patient: patient ID, the name, address, telephone, date of birth, BMI, heart rate, and allergies. So on the left hand side then I'm going to show you how you can enter all of those. So first of all, you can see that there's already a field in here called ID and the type is set to auto number. Access adds this in by default because it just wants to make sure that you have a primary key. Again, just to show you, there's the little key icon next to it. It wants to make sure you have a primary key in every table and that it's going to have a unique value, which is taken care of by auto number. So we can basically just edit what's already there, and instead of just calling it ID, we can type in the word patient before ID. So we'll call that patient ID, but the rest of it is okay as it is. So leave the primary key option there checked, leave the data type as auto number as well. Okay, and then you can click on the next row and we'll start typing in there patient name. The data type for this one is short text. So you'll see in the drop down menu there's a couple of options, short text and long text. Short text lets you have up to 255 characters, so it's more than long enough for a name. And same for address actually as well. Should be long enough for most addresses anyway. So we'll choose short text for this option, for this next one as well. Patient telephone next. Okay, again, we'll choose short text. You may be thinking telephone number, why wouldn't I choose a number? But because telephone numbers can often incorporate maybe plus symbols or brackets or different things like that, anywhere that there's anything that's not a number, we need to use the short text option instead. So numbers, it should only contain numbers and nothing else basically. Okay. For patient date of birth next, for this one we can choose the date option. So you'll see date and time as an option in the list, so pick that one for date of birth. Patient BMI next. BMI definitely will be just a number. Okay, so choose number from the list. Again, there's number and large number. Any numbers that we work with will be just number on its own, will be fine. Okay. Same for the heart rate. We'll choose number again. And allergies lastly. Allergies, we want it to just be a yes or no option. So in here you'll see an option for that, yes or no, and that'll let the person just either check a box if they do have allergies or not check it if they don't have allergies. Just to show you here, there's a few other types that we might make use of in some of our other tables, like currency and maybe hyperlink as well. Those are probably the only other ones that we'll make use of. Okay, so once you have all of your fields set up and they look like this and look like what you see in the exercise there, we're then going to switch back to datasheet view to start entering some information about our different patients. So again, go up to the menu, go to the view button and click the datasheet view. Anytime you do try to switch between views, it'll ask you to save the table. So just say yes to save the changes that you've made. And you can also, by the way, save it at any stage by going up to this save icon at the top left there and click that. Okay, I might just make this window a little bit bigger. So you can now see in your datasheet view, now you don't just have the ID field anymore, but you have all the other ones that you created as well. For some of them, you can't really see the full name of the field. You can make any of them bigger by clicking and dragging. Just roll over the area in between two fields there, and you'll see, same as in Excel, you can see this kind of two-way arrow, and click and drag to make that a little bit bigger. I'm just going to do the same for the other ones, or double click to make it automatically the right size. And allergies. Okay, so you can see everything there. I have some information then that I'm going to enter for that patient. So you can basically, for this, you can just make up information for 3 or 4 different patients, and you can make up the information that you're typing in yourselves. Okay. To actually enter information, all you need to do is just click into the fields that you want to add the information to, so patient name, and just start typing it in. You'll see as you do that, you will get the number 1 here for the first patient, and you'll see when I get on to the second patient, it'll go to 2 and then 3 for the next one, and so on. Okay. Just to show you here, I can add other characters as well as numbers like a dash or a plus or whatever else within telephone. With date of birth, because we've picked the date type, we get this date picker, so I can actually go and pick the person's date of birth. Yeah, for date of birth, maybe that's not the best. It's quite useful for appointments where, you know, the date might be only like a week or two in advance, because you can click through here, but it would take me a very long time to go all the way back to someone's date of birth. So what you might do is just pick a date instead. Just pick any date at all so that you can see the format that you need to type it in. So our dates need to be typed in this particular format. Basically the two letter date of the month first, then the month itself. So if I wanted to do August, obviously that's 08, and the year, then I can change that to be whatever year. Type in the 4-digit year instead of just like the last two. Okay, BMI, then I'll enter a number, and heart rate the same. And allergies, then you can either tick if they do have allergies or don't tick if they don't have allergies. So I'm just going to tick this one. And once you go on to the second row, you'll see again, as soon as you start typing some more information in there, you get another number. So each of our patients will have their own unique patient ID that's taken care of by Access. Okay, so I'm just going to save this table. So click save in the top left, and you yourselves can carry on with that and create a few more patients. So try and create, I think I've specified a particular amount here in the exercise. 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 patients, and just make up the information for each patient. It doesn't really matter what the information is, just as long as you fill it with some information. Save it once you're finished. And we already have the database saved. That's the next step there. So you don't need to do anything with that. I'm just going to show you then, we're going to also create the rest of our tables. So I want you to kind of work away through these yourselves and create one for prescription, one for patient card, one for doctor, and one for appointment. I'm going to go through the steps for creating the prescription table first, and then you can repeat the same kind of steps for all the other ones. Okay, so once you have one table created and saved, how you go about creating another one, because obviously that one that we created, it was already there. We didn't have to actually do anything. It was already there when we started the database. But to create a second table, if you go to create on the menu, you'll see a bunch of different options here for things you can create. So table design, there's also queries, forms, and reports, and we'll talk about some of these over the next few weeks. But the one we want for now is table design. So that's going to bring us to straight away the view where we can start creating new fields for this new table. Okay, so in here then, I'm going to type prescription number, choose auto number as the type. So again, this time, the last time Access had already done that for us, but this time we're going to do it ourselves. So choose auto number, and again, Access then will number the first one 1, second one 2, and so on. Here we're also going to store patient ID, and that's going to be a number. Okay, prescription date, that's going to be a date. The drug that was prescribed, and that's going to be short text and comments. We might choose the long text option for this, because obviously the doctor might want to write a longer description about maybe why the prescription was given to the patient or something like that. Okay, so long text for that last one. Okay, so your table should now look like this. We're then just also going to click save. Okay, so go up to the top and click save, and then it'll ask you to name your table, and we'll call it prescription. Just to zoom in on that there in case you can't see it, in the save as box that comes up, type prescription and click OK. Okay, now so you might see this message then. Okay, there is no primary key defined, as there, basically that it's recommended, and do we want to create one now? And we will say yes to do that. Okay, and it automatically picks the first field to create the primary key. So that's kind of taking care of that for us. I'm just going to show you how you would create it if Access didn't do it automatically. There's also a menu option for that. So have a look at your menu up at the top. This is the Table Tools design menu that we're in. And you'll see here there's a big button called Primary Key. So if I wanted to assign a different key field as the primary key, I could click on this one, click primary key to remove it from that one, and click a different one and click primary key to add it to that one. Now I am just going to move it back because this is the one that we want to be the primary key. Again, that's the thing that's going to uniquely identify each of the records in our table. So yeah, for each prescription we'll have our unique number. Okay, so with that done, you can just save the table again. Click that save icon up in the top corner, and that's it then. Yeah, just to say, you don't need to add information to all of your different tables. So you can create the patient table, add 3 to 5 patients in there, and work away then and try and get the rest of the tables created. That's the ones you see in the exercise there: prescription, patient card, doctor, and what was the last one? Appointment as well. But you don't need to go and add information to all of those. Just basically get them created this week and add the fields and the primary keys to them. So you can see there what fields you're supposed to add to each one and what the primary key should be in each case. If you do have any questions or run into any trouble with it, just let me know and I'll come over and give you a hand.